Going into SummerSlam with the way that the build-up had been spoken about in the social media realm, it was a very polarizing, divided idea from the crowd of whether or not this was properly built and what was the stronger night. Well, I think it was a pretty much unanimous choice that night one looked like the stronger card when it was eventually released, which was within days of the actual event. So night two looked like there were a couple of matches there that were standouts, but over and all, it was probably not going to be the best of the nights because they stacked night one with Brock Lesnar and Obafemi and CM Punk and Cody Rhodes and Liv Morgan and Io Sky. It was just like, it just seemed like Nick Aldis made his triumphant return. Just seemed like on paper that this was just a bigger event for night one. Did night two live up to its very low expectations? Did it exceed those expectations? Or was it a stinker? This is my subjective opinion, and I'm reporting from the portal of pro wrestling. This is the Wrestling Old Head. So let's break it on down like a shotgun. First of all, this was a very brisk SummerSlam night two. Night one was also a very quick PLE. However, this one felt a bit quicker, and maybe it was the matches weren't as long. They didn't have a whole lot of epic matches here. I think they were saving that for the main event, of course, and we'll get to the main event later. But as far as the matches, they didn't really stick around very much. It was very reminiscent of WrestleMania this past year, where most of the matches were under 10 minutes, except for a few that maybe exceeded it, but not by a large margin. They really didn't give them a lot of time, which either meant that they were going to be putting us through more commercials, or they figured that they would save their extended match length for the main event. That remains to be seen as we get through this review of the show. Another thing that I must say is that Paul Levesque is a freaking troll, man. He's just a straight-up troll now. I'm convinced that he is pushing the buttons of the internet wrestling community, and I'm here for it. I'm really here for it, especially certain content creators that get really, really upset because they're expecting the WWE to do things that they envision for the betterment of professional wrestling and for WWE as a whole. Some people have this outlook and this idea of what the WWE should look like and are pushing and driving that ideology home, and some of their followers and people that are into their content are echoing those, and they're getting louder and louder as well. In 2026, everyone is a critic. You don't have to have a microphone like me. Everybody can get on the internet and in a few words or less type up exactly how they feel, what they feel, whether it's genuine or whether it's trying to rile up the community. It can be done from the safety of your computer without ever speaking a word. That's why I come on here to speak a word, because I am looking to share my opinion with professional wrestling, not to get you to believe exactly how I look at wrestling is the right way, or if you should look at things the way that I look at things, but to provide another voice that's really not trying to gimmick you up and trying to get you to buy into this form of entertainment that I'm presenting to you. I'm talking about the form of entertainment that's being presented to us as a community, and I'm just a fan. So without further ado, let's get into the PLE. As I said, Levesque is a freaking troll, man. So Sami Zayn and Finn Balor come out, and then we see Nick Aldis coming out. And I'm wondering if Nick Aldis is going to take off his suit and tie and insert himself into the match as a triple threat. Alas, that was not true. He said that he was going to enter someone else in and make it a triple threat match in the interest of fairness and business, right? Sami Zayn was not having that. Then Gunther comes out, and I was like, what? Like, if Aldis didn't say that it was him, if he said that it came from above, a committee decided that this was best for business, or if the previous night there was a stipulation that said that if Aldis were to lose, then Gunther would be inserted into the triple threat match, then that would have made a little bit more sense. But even the handshake after Aldis had a black eye was just very random and weird. However, this is where I feel like Levesque is a troll. because in my personal opinion, I believe that he held off giving that information to surprise the crowd, to give them something to throw them off the scent of the way that they predicted Sami Zayn and Finn Balor to go. And I believe that he was trying to also tie up some loose ends. Now, who was there to thread those loose ends together to make it a nice little crochet? I have no idea. But it did work in this instance because I was completely thrown off when Gunther showed up. And pretty much as he entered into the ring, figured that he would walk away victorious somehow. But they weren't done. Nick Aldis again said, well, I don't know if that's just it. I think we're going to bring someone else out. And Kevin Owens comes out. Now, the first person that came to my mind, and this is just true to form here, I'm being completely 100 with you guys. I thought it was going to be Drew McIntyre. Then I realized, oh, he's probably still filming Highlander, and he's probably not ready to return right now. So maybe I messed up. But Kevin Owens coming out was a complete shocker. Now, I figured that he would have showed up in some capacity tonight at SummerSlam, but I had no clue, and I mean no clue, that he was going to show up actually ready to wrestle. I figured that he would show up and make an entrance, maybe interfere here and there, but I had no idea that he was going to be showing up ready to compete in the ring. What a wonderful surprise. And he stole the show 100%. Just with the energy, the reaction from the crowd, his moment that he had with Sami Zayn, his intensity, his lion roar, you know, that carnal roar that he lets out, all of that was sorely missed in the WWE. We missed Kevin Owens. I think the whole entire professional wrestling community can echo those sentiments. And it was so glad to see him back in the ring doing what he loves. And you could tell he was a little choked up when he got on stage. As far as the match goes, they didn't give it a whole lot of time here. Everybody was able to get their stuff in, you know. It went under 10 minutes, so they didn't, like I said, they didn't really stick around for a long time here, and Kevin Owens was victorious. Now, if you remember, or if you haven't, you can check it out, but previous night's review, I said that I couldn't wait for Kevin Owens to return to possibly feud with CM Punk because I thought that was going to be money. I felt like this was something that the wrestling fans would love to see, because there's some personal animosity between those two, and I don't believe, to my knowledge, they've ever gotten in the ring. I think Kevin Owens showed up in Ring of Honor as Kevin Steen a little bit after CM Punk left and went to the WWE. CM Punk had retired as Kevin Owens was getting into the main roster of the WWE. I mean, they might have had an IWA Mid-South match or two, but I can't remember it for the life of me. So this was a match that, you know, Ring of Honor fans would have loved to see, you know, two different eras colliding. And this was probably a match that the WWE fans also had on their dream match list. Very few dream matches left in professional wrestling, and this one is it, because Kevin Owens cuts like a knife and so does CM Punk, and considering they do have a personal history together, just, you know, a bunch of animosity and whatnot, I cannot wait to see their promo battles and to see what they do in the ring. So Kevin Owens gets the win here. As far as the match goes, I'll give it a pass. Like I said, they didn't give it enough time to tell the story in the ring. The real story in the ring was that we all knew that Sami Zayn was going to get screwed. And Gunther was selling the effects of his previous night's match with Nick Aldis, which I also thought was really fair and interesting to do. And Finn Balor, feeling bad for Finn Balor, you know, but hopefully he keeps his momentum up, because they were giving him a win streak and it looked like he was, you know, coming into his own again and, you know, kind of breaking out of the lower to mid card and making a name for himself in singles form outside of the Judgment Day and Raw, and being pigeonholed to that. So Kevin Owens gets the win here, feeling bad for Finn Balor. Sami Zayn gets screwed, furthers his character. And Gunther, well, it remains to be seen what they do with Gunther, but really, really excited that Kevin Owens is back and is the number one contender, because I'm really looking forward to the interaction with CM Punk and Kevin Owens. Now, moving on, Trick Williams defends his United States Championship against Baron Corbin. Now, what was really interesting here was that Little Yachty made his return. A lot of people are criticizing the fact that Carmelo Hayes is absent from this match, as is Ilya Dragunov. And I can't say that I blame them. I think that that is a very valid point. I think that Carmelo Hayes not being involved after all that he did with the United States title, and for that matter, what Ilya Dragunov did as well, is sort of a disservice to the amount and the ability that they did. And, you know, you can't say that Carmelo's not over, because he was actually really getting over. You know, maybe there's some emotional character depth issues, but that could have all been worked out. Ilya Dragunov was also getting over. Now, of course, the depth of his character comes into question, and maybe they want a little bit more from him. They already have a dragon in Dragon Lee that's coming out, so on the Raw side. So maybe there were some issues with that, but all of that can be sorted out, and hopefully when Ilya Dragunov comes back, he will have more of that character that will propel him up the ranks in the WWE. But without those two, it was kind of interesting, and they were sorely missed as well. As far as the match goes with Baron Corbin and Trick Williams, Little Yachty returning and whatnot, again, this match was a bit longer than I believe the opening match, but not by much. And it was the story of Baron Corbin unleashing a more serious side. The last time we saw Baron Corbin in the ring, he was a little less than aggressive. He was playing these cartoonish types of characters, you know, happy Corbin, sad Corbin, you know, and then, you know, he tried to reinvigorate himself in NXT working with Braun Breaker, and that didn't work out, and he was let go. I would have loved to see them as a tag team on the main roster, but I digress. So Baron Corbin coming back and having a more sinister and vicious side. Trick Williams, of course, defending his U.S. title in a match where he's wrestling a veteran. You know, let's just call him a grizzled veteran at this point in Baron Corbin. And this match was fine for what it was. I love that Trick Williams is learning how to sell, because that's really good. He's really been studying a lot of Booker T, man. There's a lot of Booker T in his mannerisms. With Baron Corbin, he's the guy you love to hate, and I love Baron Corbin. I wish he went back to his old theme music that he had in NXT. That theme was the best theme he ever had. But he is a good. He usually chooses good theme music, and this song I feel like will more than likely grow on me at some point. The ending comes when Little Yachty tries to get involved. Baron Corbin hits Little Yachty, and then Trick is distracted by that. The referee is also distracted. Trick Williams gets hit with the United States Championship, the one that has a beard on it, and we get a victory for Baron Corbin here. Now, this was a shocker. A lot of people didn't see this coming. I'm not completely upset with this. You know, I can't say that, oh, they're burying Trick Williams. I think, you know, a little adversity for Trick, especially considering he's going to be a fan favorite, would do him some good. You don't want him to come off too much like a heel that's getting cheered. You want him to have a little bit more depth. And an unpredictable loose cannon like Baron Corbin can do a lot of things. You know, they've been showing Trick Williams with Lash Legend a lot. It has me wondering if maybe Baron Corbin will try to get in his head by confronting Lash Legend. You know, those are things that I think a guy like Baron Corbin can do that maybe a Carmelo and an Ilya Dragunov cannot do, that would add depth to a feud or to the story of Trick Williams as he's growing into prominence in the WWE. So, not to say that that's something that they should do or anything, but, you know, this guy, obviously Trick is going to feel like he was slighted a little bit, you know, with the distraction of having his buddy Lil Yachty get hit. So they're far from over, and you still have other challengers for Baron Corbin in the meantime, other top contenders matches you can do with Trick. My hope is that Trick still shows up and works with Cody Rhodes and CM Punk in some fashion to go against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Randy Orton. I think at least a house show circuit would do him really good. Like I said, he studies from Booker T. If he's listening to Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, he's in great hands. The match was what it was. You know, it didn't wow me. It didn't thrill me at all. I'm not mad at the fact that Baron Corbin won the United States title. I have a feeling that a lot of people are, by the way, but I'm not. I'm completely fine with it because it's going to add some depth to Trick Williams to be the adversary, to work on his adversity and perseverance, and to have somebody that can get in his head like Baron Corbin that's his height is also going to be really, really good. The next match is the 5-way ladder match for the interim WWE Women's Championship. Charlotte Flair, Jade Cargill, Chelsea Green, Lash legend Tiffany Stratton. The odds-on favorites going into this were Tiffany Stratton, Charlotte Flair, and Jade Cargill. There were a few that were predicting that Lash legend was going to win. And another reason why I consider Paul Levesque a troll is that last night he said, if you think that you should be in a better position in the WWE, show us. You got to show us by getting over. If you're not over like Cody Rhodes or CM Punk or Liv Morgan and Roman Reigns, I think he mentioned Open Femi as well, then that's why you're not in the spot. You got to show us. And I think that was very controversial, but I know that he was poking the bear there with a lot of critics and a lot of pundits. And this was an interesting move where the three favorites did not win. In fact, Chelsea Green won. And I was just so happy for Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green has always been over, even when she's been a villain. She had her entire cabinet removed from her. Chelsea Green as the president with the cabinet was just a wonderful idea that they should have gotten a lot more mileage out of, but I understand, especially people in the cabinet being from different country. That's hilarious to me. But they didn't flesh it out that much. They didn't really see a whole lot in Chelsea Green, and they said as much in the WWE Unreal television show, which maybe was scripted, maybe was kind of foreshadowing a moment like this. Who knows? Where Michael Hayes had said some things. That's not the point. The point is that I'm really, really happy for Chelsea Green. She deserves it. She's been working really, really hard. She does a lot of press. She's really good as a spokeswoman for the WWE, the stuff that she does with charities, and just her overall nature, her vibrant personality, the way that she commands the crowd. That's another thing that I forgot to mention with the Trick Williams match. That's something that Trick should work on, and I'm hoping that some of the veterans key in on this for him, is that you got to rile the crowd up. You got to get them to start cheering for you, you know, especially in a stadium like that. And it's not always about like telling them to get up with your hands. Sometimes it can be a look. You know, Randy Savage was really good at that. Roddy Piper was really good at that. They use their face, they use their facial expressions to get you invested in the match for the crowd to go crazy. They didn't have to use their body. They didn't have to do anything crazy like it was a concert or something. Those are little things that I think could help Trick that Chelsea does really, really well. So happy that she won the interim women's championship. Very interesting that they chose her. Like, I'm curious what that means for Tiffany Stratton being the United States champion and Chelsea being the women's world champion, if they feel like they should go for the tag titles and pull Shawn Michaels and Diesel from 1995 or something. You know, that could be in the cards. Tiffany Stratton being a little jealous. You know, there's a lot of different routes you can go there. Blake Monroe being involved in there is something that would be interesting. I would love to see Jordynne Grace come back as a villain. I think repackaging Jordynne Grace so that she can be a baddie. Not Jade Cargill's group, but, you know, like a bad girl, a bad woman, whatever, I think would be really good for her, you know? She should go to doing like the bear hug or the master lock and stuff like that. Really intimidate Chelsea Green. I think she would be a good foe for Chelsea Green as the interim champion. I think that would be nice. And when Rhea Ripley makes her return, is Chelsea Green still going to have the title, or are they going to pull a Sami Zayn here? All of that, it falls into question. This was just a fan service moment. I think the match was fine for what it was. Again, this was probably the longest match of the night up to this point. And Chelsea, I think, did a phenomenal job of getting the crowd invested here. Everybody played their part. I would have thought we would have seen some interference or a surprise return or something of that sort, but I'm really glad we didn't. And I'm really glad the women didn't get super hurt. You know, obviously the baddies showed up and tried to get Chelsea Green to lose there. So you've got Chelsea Green against Jade Cargill in the future. There's just a lot. There's a lot to do. I'm excited to see what they do with Chelsea. And this was a milestone moment for her, and I'm really glad she got her SummerSlam moment. This was a night of moments, essentially. You know, Baron Corbin making his return and getting his moment, winning the United States Championship. Kevin Owens making his return and winning the number one contenders shot. Chelsea Green winning the Women's Championship. Is this the only time that we see a night of fan service where people get exactly what they've been hoping for? That remains to be seen. And following that match, we had a human monies on a pole match. The winner kept the U.S. $100,000 in cash, stole from the Judgment Day U.S. I meant, the currency and whatnot, but you get what I'm saying. Anyways, this match, again, didn't really overstay its welcome, was really, really quick. Danhausen, he's a character, man. A lot of people thought that we would have seen bigger Hausen show up, which I still think is in the cards. Do you think Josh Briggs could be a bigger Hausen, like that Frankenstein character? I think he kind of fits the role a little bit. Or are they going to pair him with Kaz and Enzo that's going to be coming up this Monday? Remains to be seen. The match was, again, nothing exciting. Nothing where I can go like, oh man, that was like a show stealer. It was what it was. Not every match needs to be Ricky Steamboat against Randy Savage, okay? Not every match should steal the show, should be 5-star classics. I think those that are conditioned for that are probably watching too much AEW. Sometimes a formatted show doesn't have to be filled with A+, B+ matches. Sometimes a C+, D+ match can serve its point by not doing what all these other matches. It actually makes the other matches look really good, by the way. Like when you get like a Roman Reigns and a Seth Rollins, when you get a Chad Gable and a Penta, it makes those matches that much more important because you didn't see 4 of those types of matches previously. So I'm okay with that. I don't see a problem in the different types of matches that you get. Danhausen got a win here, which was a little bit of a shocker to me as well, because I figured that they would have had Dominic Mysterio win. Dominic looks like he's going to be dropping the AAA Mega Championship as well when he wrestles El Grande Americano coming up. So I'm wondering what they're doing with Dominic Mysterio's push here and his momentum. I remember a couple of months ago now, almost a year ago, they were teasing some stuff with him and Roxanne. They never really followed up. Like, I'm wondering if they're going to try to rekindle that in some point, because Dominic is going to be down in the dumps and not really have a whole lot of confidence behind him now. Not a lot of his buddies aren't around, just JD McDonough and a bunch of women and whatnot. I wonder if Roxanne's going to prey on that, because there's been some tension between Liv and Roxanne as well. And as I stated in night 1, I feel like Roxanne is perfect for the Money in the Bank, while Liv has the Women's Championship. Because the implosion of Judgment Day, I don't believe Judgment Day is going to be around in 2027. So those are a couple of ideas that I find interesting that they could implement that could get the ball rolling in that regard. Not to say that they have to do it, just a little fantasy booking from the Wrestling Old Head. And the next match, talking about fan service again, like I said, a night of fan service with Danhausen now also rounding it out, getting the fans happy. It's a very interesting choice to do that for night 2. And up to this point, things have been memorable with moments, but not so much with matches in the ring. Obviously the standout is the opening match. I think up to this point, it's the best match. Although the women's 5-way ladder match exceeded expectations to me as well, but it wasn't one of what I would have called the match of the night. But big moments of the night with Kevin Owens returning, Chelsea Green getting her championship win, Baron Corbin winning the U.S. title, so that there's some stuff like that I think really kind of left the matches kind of in the background because the big moments decided to take the lead. Chad Gable wrestles Penta for the Intercontinental Championship. I almost said the United States Championship. This was a great match. This probably up until this point was match of the night for me. There's great chemistry between these two. I think Penta shined in this match. Chad Gable as well, being in his hometown, he was working with a little bit more oomph and had a battery to his back. He was supercharged here. They didn't give this match as much time as I thought. I thought they would have given it like a 16, 17-minute match. Michael Cole was mentioning the Intercontinental title matches at SummerSlam from the past, like Shawn Michaels and Rick Martel, which I don't know if he mentioned that, but that was an Intercontinental title match at SummerSlam. Bret Hart and Bulldog, Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect. He mentioned Shawn Michaels and, he mentioned Triple H and The Rock. He didn't mention Shawn Michaels. He should have, because he had a couple of great Intercontinental title matches, including one with Razor Ramon that was at SummerSlam that I thought was really good. And shame that didn't get mentioned. So considering that they were touting off all those classic Intercontinental title matches from SummerSlam's past, I figured that they would have given them more time. But the match was what it was. I think it was really good. And like I said, up to this point, match of the year. Or, match of the night. Don't come for me saying match of the year. Don't you come for me. It was a slip. It was a Freudian slip, because maybe there's a match of the year match coming up after this, but we shall see. So Chad Gable got the win here. Very emotional moment for him. He brings his family into the ring, and he cuts a promo very similar to the promo that he cut when he took his mask off in Mexico. Very much along the same lines. He introduced himself, where he was from, and how proud he was to be in this position. So really, really great moment, and very emotional. And like I said, a big fan service moment. We got what we wanted. We wanted Chad Gable to finally win the Intercontinental Championship, and he did. I was half expecting that Penta, in his frustrations, might have attacked Chad Gable, but let's keep Penta where he's at. He's a fan favorite. Hopefully we can slowly implement Phoenix onto the side of Raw, and they can become a tag team to help bolster up the tag team division, because Lord knows the WWE needs it at this point. How come they don't want me, man? If you know, you know. Go back to my preview of SummerSlam or my review of SummerSlam Night 1. And now, after a long intermission, it is Roman Reigns against Seth Rollins in the main event of the evening. And what a main event it was. This was epic, guys. This was exactly what I would have hoped for, a final chapter in Roman Reigns against Seth Rollins. They have done it all, and in the past, 10 to 12 years, they were holding the WWE up by very thin threads when things were uncertain. There was a lot of questions about creative. There was a lack of people filing in. A new company had started to bloom out of nowhere in AEW and threaten the very foundation of the WWE. Vince McMahon leaves the WWE, and all while this is happening, all while this is going on, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are trying to keep the WWE in the interests of wrestling fans all over the world. And Roman was shoved down our throats for a very long time. We spit him out. We refused. No, pause. We refused to accept that Roman was going to be the new John Cena or the new big guy. We rejected him so much that he took that adversity and he made himself an icon. And this match was iconic. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be alone in saying that. But knowing the history and following it as I've done, and watching some of their matches being lackluster or not exactly what I had pictured, or kind of leaving it open for more, they exceeded my expectations here with a wonderful tribute to their storied history, which makes me wonder if we've seen maybe a break for Seth Rollins, which I'm not going to fight it. Seth needs to find his character. He needs to find his motivation again. He needs to find his smile. He is, the pseudo Shawn Michaels of the WWE of this era. His athletic ability and the way that he's kind of been the top bad guy in the WWE for a while now, and has kind of worked around, being a good guy and a bad guy, and just trying to find who he is as a character. He wears outlandish, flamboyant, fashionista clothing. He cackles like a joker. He's got to find his motivation, a revolutionary, a visionary, a messiah, just trying to find all of that. Hopefully if he does take a break and he comes back, we get one last run of Tyler Black, Seth Rollins, which I've been looking forward to in the WWE for a while, just with a little bit more charisma. That's the kind of Seth Rollins that I'd like to see in his final run, just tearing shit up. This match was everything that I would have hoped for a final encounter between Roman and Seth. And years ago, actually, when I first started this channel, I thought that maybe Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns would end up teaming up. And at the time, it was more recently when the Vision had split up with Seth Rollins, Roman was starting to get involved because Bronson Reed had called himself the Tribal Thief. And I thought eventually Seth and Roman are going to have to team up to get rid of the Vision, right? And of course, injuries and all of these things have shifted around this whole program with the Vision and Seth Rollins and all of that. I would hope that eventually we do see Roman and Seth reunite as a tag team, because that's one thing that we haven't seen. Not that they need to go back to the well that quickly, This was a perfect send-off for their encounter, their epic final encounter here at SummerSlam. This has been a night of two main events, in my opinion. Night one's main event, night two's main event, and the semi-main event from night one as well. If you had to book SummerSlam as a one-night event, I would have probably done Gunther and Aldis. I would have done Liv Morgan and Io Sky, CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, Oba Femi and Brock Lesnar, the Fatal 4-Way for the Undisputed WWE Championship, the 5-way ladder match for the Interim Women's Championship, Chad Gable against Penta, and Roman Reigns against Seth Rollins. And I would have left everything else for a SmackDown or Raw. That's 8 matches, and that would have been a perfect PLE. By splitting it up and adding in these ancillary matches, it affected it a bit. But of course, the WWE gives you enough big moments and enough surprises to get you talking about it for the next day. As far as matches go, the matches out of all nights that you need to look out for is Chad Gable and Penta, Roman and Seth, Cody and Punk, and Oba and Lesnar. Go out of your way to watch those matches, you guys, just for the emotionality of it all. Roman and Seth left it all on the line. And I noticed that mask that Seth kept trying to give Roman, and they left it in the center of the ring. I got to imagine that was a homage to Dean Ambrose, who is known as Jon Moxley now. And I got into this conversation before I get out of here about Jon Moxley and Roman and who is better having split from the Shield. If I had to rank, and I should have done a video with this, and maybe I'll still do a video with this, if I had to rank the top members of the Shield in order, Roman is number one by a long shot, just on the metrics and the analytics, and just the way that he puts on matches is just out of this world. It's always blockbuster. He had a great match with Cody. He had a phenomenal match with CM Punk. And this was the best match I've seen Seth Rollins do in a very long time. I am struggling to choose between CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. Personal taste here, because I know a lot of people didn't like that match. This was personal taste. This was 1980s, 1990s throwback match for me. Or Roman and Seth, and I'm really leaning towards Roman and Seth. Roman has done a fantastic job with his character, and the way that he rolls out matches is state-of-the-art, in my opinion. They had a lot of homages and Easter eggs, just chef's kiss, and a better story than CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, in my opinion. This was a better match. I'm really leaning towards saying that out of those two. And I look at Roman as number one for sure, and number two, I might have to say Jon Moxley, and I know that's a very controversial take. And number three would be Seth Rollins. And the one reason that Seth is number three, in my opinion, he's had great moments, but he's still searching for his character. We know Jon Moxley is batshit insane. We know Roman has a calm, mob boss demeanor. But who is Seth Rollins? And I hope when he comes back and has his final run, or one of his final runs, to whether he goes to become a part-time player or if he retires forever, I hope when he comes back, we get Tyler Black, the best version of Tyler Black in Seth Rollins. And I look forward to that. Roman winning, a part of me thought that there was going to be some sort of a return or a big moment there with maybe the final boss, The Rock, showing up, or maybe Oba's music playing and Oba marching out and pointing at Roman Reigns, which I think would have been a mega moment. Imagine if Oba Femi came out in regular clothes, the phenomenal, fashion statement that he always exudes, to come out onto that stage and point at Roman would have been a great moment. But save it. I like how WWE saves those things. You don't always need to blow your wad and give us everything at once. Save that. I think that's going to still be a huge moment. They didn't have to give it at the end of SummerSlam, but in the back of my mind, I did figure that they might have done something like that, but they ended it the right way without a big moment. We've had enough big moments for night two. Night two was a night of big moments. Night one was a night of big matches. Straight up. Every match on night one got some time. There was a great match with CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. At least that's my opinion. A great passing of the torch with Obafemi, a fantastic opening match with Liv Morgan and Io Sky, a match that exceeded a lot of people's expectations in the six-man tag with LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, Royce Keys, and the Bloodline. You had the Bella Twins turning on Paige, and you had Nick Aldis showing everybody that the man still knows how to wrestle. So that was night one, but night two was a night of big moments, and I think that when you combine those shows, if it was one show, it would have been probably a show of the year because they split it up. I think I gave night one a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. Night two is probably the same. It's probably a 6.5 or a 7 because most of the matches didn't have a lot of time to tell a story. It was mostly built around the big moments. And the only match that I feel like really, truly knocked it out of the park by a long shot was Roman and Seth, just because of the phenomenal story they told. And I know people are going to nitpick the no-selling and the Japanese style that they went into, which I think they were catering to Dave Meltzer there. Dave, you're paying attention to that match. You got to give that at least 5 stars, bro. They were no-selling their big finishers. That is a 5-star match in your eyes. You know it. You know you got to give Roman and Seth 5 stars. And I have a feeling he's going to give Cody and CM Punk probably like 4.25 or something like that. But Roman and Seth is a 5-star Wrestling Observer match. You know it, Meltzer. You know it. But regardless of all the nitpicking and all of that stuff, they told a phenomenal story in the ring. It was an epic encounter. So, yeah, aside from that, though, and Chad Gable and Penta, there wasn't anything that stood out match-wise, wrestling-wise in the ring because they didn't have enough time. So out of the 2 nights, I'm still going to edge to night one, in my opinion, for now, but definitely night 2 has moments that make it worthwhile, with Kevin Owens returning to the ring, with Chelsea Green finally getting a women's world title, with Penta and Chad Gable tearing down the house and Chad Gable finally getting the Intercontinental title, and with Roman and Seth closing a chapter in their long storied rivalry. So a lot to talk about, nothing that really blew me away for night 2. So that's my opinion, you guys, but I'd love to hear what you think of WrestleMania, of SummerSlam night 2 and night 1 and night 2 combined. What did you think of the WWE SummerSlam weekend as a whole? Thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video and more, go ahead and if you want, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, because I got some good stuff down the pipeline, including potential me on screen. So you'll finally, for the newer people that have started to tune in and subscribe, I know you're wondering, like, who is this guy? I used to do like shorts of Raw reviews and SmackDown reviews and things like that, 60 seconds or less, and so it was in my car and whatnot, and I've expanded to talk about the professional wrestling product, and that's how I built the Portal of Pro Wrestling, where we talk about wrestling of all different kinds. And I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to my perspective, and I look forward to seeing more of you guys. Thank you again for checking this video out, and I can't wait to hear what you think of SummerSlam. Go ahead and leave it down in the comment section below. You guys have a great rest of the weekend, and I'll talk to you really soon.